Welcome to Directionally Correct, a PM's podcast with Cole and Scott. Today's guest, Jeremy Shapiro, AVP of Workforce Analytics at Merck.
Thanks to our sponsors, One Model. One Model helps people leaders at large organizations make consistently brilliant talent decisions by unlocking the analytical value of the data dispersed across your business. One Model's people analytics platform takes all of the heavy lifting out of data extraction, cleansing, modeling, analytics, and reporting of enterprise workforce data. One Model pioneered people data orchestration and has perfected the ethical use of AI and data science for leaders who need transparent and explainable decision support systems. HR and business teams trust its accurate reports, analyses, and storytelling capabilities. Data scientists, engineers, and people analytics professionals love the combination of governance and flexibility that no other workforce insights platform can provide. To learn more, book a demo at onemodel.co/directionallycorrect. All opinions are our own and do not reflect those of any other organization.
Because he wanted me to come speak at the university, too, about jobs or... Essentially, my talk's going to go like, I don't know, be a good person and like work hard. Like, tinker around. And when someone tells you no and you want to do it, just like do it anyway.
It's like every graduation speech has like, "Oh, the places you will go" by Dr. Seuss. It's just like, yeah, just work hard. You know, it's going to work out.
I think it was when I graduated with a master's degree. It was like the Attorney General of Texas. I don't know who the hell it was, but they got up and they must have rambled for like 45, 50 straight minutes about who knows what, to the point where like people are like leaning in their seat and like, are you trying to get elected right here? Because like they ain't working. I don't know what the fuck's going on, man.
You lost the crowd 39 minutes.
Wrap it up. And we still got to get through 800 people.
You know what's impressive is some people who have no situational awareness, so they'll just keep going. You know, they don't care. Nobody's listening. If somebody doesn't take the microphone away from them physically, they're going to go.
Well, you're talking about on stage. It's like in the wild is just as bad. Like we both know somebody that will essentially just talk you to death until you're like a little skeleton. But their same thing is like they will stand in the doorway, so there's no escape.
You're a prisoner now. You don't even know it.
You're gonna hear it. You're gonna hear what I got to say, and it ain't gonna be short.
No, it is not. Wow.
And if you try to change the subjects, I'm gonna get mad.
I'm trying to think who this person is because I have like a few candidates in mind. Hey, Jeremy.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
Jeremy, what's happening, dude?
How are you?
Oh, it looks festive there. You getting ready for the holidays?
Why is this festive?
Oh, I don't know. Is that a tree behind you?
Oh, no, that's those are very not real ferns that my cats who are over here chew on, even though they're very plastic.
Oh, it was kind of sticking out. It was either a Christmas tree or a mullet. One of the two.
I mean, that could be too. It could be a mullet.
This is like the Louisiana Christmas tree right here.
Absolutely. Well, I see the cycle. Are you a big biker?
Yeah. That's my both the cycling and triathlons. That's my.
So
there's actually 3 bikes in this room. You can just see that one because I didn't have room for it off camera anymore.
3 bikes.
Yeah.
So how do you decide? Like what are you gonna do today? Like,
well, one sitting on a trainer is my tri bike anyway, so I only use that in the summer, and then there's a road bike that I normally ride, and that's my old bike that I just don't want to part with because I like it.
Nice. Well, so how does one get into triathlon? Just out of curiosity, like you don't just stumble into like one day you're like, yeah, I'm doing a triathlon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it was I was getting very good at getting injured by running only. And so someone had said to me, you can avoid injury by training other parts of your body, which I found to be completely false. It just new ways in which you can injure yourself is in those areas as well. So I just am very, very satisfied with the fact that I am a mediocre triathlete, and that just turns into my kind of constant developmental of getting better and better. Like just like in our professional lives, having coaches, I've got a coach and she looks at my data and we try to optimize, and so it's kind of a way for me to think about my life, but in a completely
So you're
different
like,
context.
if I could work in like drowning with torn ligaments, like this would be a good move, right?
If that's one of your life goals, yeah, you could definitely do it in but go big, like do it in a full iron distance. Like
yeah. Was it like 2.2 miles and a full marathon and then like 110 miles or something like that?
It's 2 point, almost there. 2.4. It's basically directionally correct, just to work in the to 2.4 on the swim, and then
no, out right there.
112 on the bike, and then in a marathon.
Oh,
hopefully kilometers, not miles.
Oh no, miles. No miles.
Oh god.
Yep.
Yeah.
In Europe, they just make them longer.
Yeah.
that's just like it's in Hawaii, right? They do that in Hawaii.
There is a big one in Hawaii. Yeah. So Kona, that's kind of there are many world championships, but that's kind of, at least for the Ironman branded. No, by the way, this is actually kind of a cool, there is an IO link to Ironman, right?
Yeah.
So the CEO of the Ironman Corporation, because it is a company, is a gentleman by the name of Scott DeRue. He used to have a different title. Professor Scott DeRue from the University of Michigan Ross School of Business. He taught leadership.
Really?
And yeah, in fact, he's fantastic. We got to work with my old company. We worked with him quite a bit. He is fantastic to work with. And so you basically have this incredibly well-trained IO running an endurance performance company that's global. I've been meaning to reach out to him. I want to see how he's doing. Like how would he think about what he taught now as he's in this seat doing that work? I think that'd be so cool.
His name sounds really familiar. I'm trying to recall what he
I'm
actually
sure with all of your both experiences, you've probably run into him or read his work, or he did some stuff with us.
I think he did stuff on Peak Performance, if I'm remembering correctly, which would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Of why he would get involved in something like Ironman.
It's like leadership
Yeah.
research or something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fun fact, I ran in the Wonder Bread Kids triathlon at like 11. Yeah. And
that's the way to go. Where was was it in Boston, the Wonder Bread Kids triathlon?
No, this is in Dallas, Texas.
In Dallas, Texas?
Like Highlands area.
I'm guessing the prize was bread. Is that for finishing?
I wouldn't even know, Cole. I wouldn't know.
Well, Jeremy, I feel like I've known you forever, but I didn't actually know you until not that long ago, because you wrote or co-wrote that seminal article called "Competing on Talent Analytics," which was kind of, I think, in my estimation, was the catalyst for why a lot of this stuff kicked off in the first place. And so what I thought would be super interesting is, you've had 14, 15 years to reflect on what's going on there. And I can tee up the article if you'd like, but I'd love for you to kind of speak to it. What do you think about what you guys wrote at the time? Yeah. And what do you think about it in retrospect now?
Oh, okay. Sure. Yeah. So after 14 years, something that I felt even in the moment was definitely true. So the co-authors were Tom Davenport and Stacey Harris, and Tom had already written 15 books at that point. He was named with multiple awards for kind of most innovative consultant of the year, like all these really, really cool key influencer. And so I felt like I was on Dancing with the Stars and I was the jock, because essentially like the first version of that article was publishable. It was absolutely publishable. And what's actually so amazing is the process of editing through Harvard Business Review made it even better and just raised the performance. Like that was actually interesting just in itself. But even back then, the reason that the article is called Competing on Talent Analytics is because Tom Davenport had co-written a book a couple of years before then called Competing on Analytics.
Yep.
And as I was reading that book, there was in one of the chapters, it had started with, we don't know anyone doing this in HR, but here's what you could do. And I'm like, oh, that kind of bothers me because things were just starting at that point, but we were definitely even at that point, we were embracing analytics in organizations. I mean, IBM had a department that was doing it in the 70s, right? For like, it's not, IO work from the 60s is and it certainly qualifies for some of this kind of quantitative talent work.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just so happens through either good or bad luck that a friend, someone that I was working with, knew Tom and was at a party with him and said, "Hey, by the way, there's a guy I want you to meet because he says you're wrong about something." And Tom's like, "Well, I'm wrong about a lot of things. Which one are you talking about?" And that's how we connected. And so we started talking a little bit. And we said, "Well, but this might be interesting to write together." And then he called Stacy Harris, who was a leader at Accenture at that point, and said, I actually have a slot for Harvard Business Review. Why don't we make this the topic for that slot itself? There's two things that I think are durable about that article. One is it technically was the first time, or one of the early times, that Google told their story about Project Oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
So the New York Times article was the big splash, but that article was the first reference, or like one of the few references to it. So when I asked Prasad, "Hey, would you be willing?" He said, "Yeah, we want to start talking about this." So that was well timed there. That was good. The structure of how to think about analytics, I still like most of the words of kind of the pyramid structure of how to think about kind of graduating up the curve. That's pretty good. What is not durable, and I think is either encouraging or not encouraging for all of us, is if you look at the companies we talked about and the case studies, almost none of them have either have a people analytics group today of note, except for Google's, right? And some of the stories I don't even know were fully realized post writing for it. So like there was a great story on Best Buy. Now Best Buy's made a giant comeback, but in between that article and today, big dip and now a comeback to it. So it was one of those takeaways for me of, people analytics it might be necessary for success, but it is not exclusively necessary for organizational success, right? There's a tripod where there are many other considerations that are holding up the ability of that company to execute and perform.
Why do you think those companies don't have a people analytics function anymore? Were they doing it wrong, or is it just doing it? They didn't provide business value.
I think the answer today would be different than it was back then. I think back then it was really dependent on what kind of sponsorship you got up the executive chain.
Yeah,
really. I wonder what Prasad would say about how he got to Google. But before he was at Google, Capital One was a really, really good people analytics shop, right? And Prasad's team there then kind of seeded out to lots of different organizations. So sometimes it does. At that point, it was about executive sponsorship. Today, I don't know. I think there's a lot of things that would be dependent. Cole, some of the work that I think Scotty, I don't know if you were working on the Revilio Labs article too, or you just worked on it. But I think that actually has some interesting answers for today on, what's necessary and what kind of roles do we really need? And what kind of companies need it?
Well, I thought it was interesting. I think this is probably good context for what we can talk about next in terms of, I see a lot of these, what's people analytics going to look like in 2025 and what are the key focus areas? And so, the article that you're referencing, Jeremy, was where basically we had done some analysis to show that people analytics had been going up in headcount for about 13 years. And then the last 2 years, you had seen somewhat of a dip, and it was trying to diagnose why is that happening. And I think that plays as important context to some of the key findings of, I think you want to talk about, what Josh Burson had put out there. I know Insight 222 has done their own. I even found that I think Red Thread has put out their 2025 analyses as well. But if I look across some of the themes that I've seen, is getting back to growth seems to be a theme in terms of people analytics teams needing to get back to expanding their scope, focusing on value, getting into things like generative AI, but making sure that generative AI needs to pay off for itself, not just experimentation. I don't know. Whatever direction you want to go there, Jeremy?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts in terms of looking at the future?
So one, that we have so many smart people looking at this is remarkable, right? So I mean, Josh's organization, Jonathan Farrar and David's organization working through this, and certainly Stacey's too. That's awesome in itself. Like we've got and including both of you, we've got really, really smart people that are thinking through what's going to happen next. I mean, there's some things that I think are probably predictable and some that are not predictable. One thing that I feel is very predictable is volatility will continue. And so whatever the predictions that we're even going into 2025 now on is an educated guess based on the trends that we see today. But kind of seeing one of the things that we in the team have been talking about a lot is seeing around corners. Right. So what is it that what's the space that we're kind of confident in? And then what are the things that we might need to be prepared for in the future? So, I mean, like the Insight 222 framework diagram that they have right now of flowing from data governance all the way through to how HR consultants, kind of internal people analytics consultants should be working and interfacing with finance and with all the key area groups to create change. Absolutely great. That is great advice that probably will last at least 2025, right? Hopefully it'll last even longer than that.
You hope.
One of the things that I find interesting is the pace of change within AI work has become so fast that, I mean, just this morning I was talking to one of our HR operations leaders about technical debt being incurred because the pace of change has gotten so fast that things that we might have just done a full stack build on are now either automated in a different way, or the vendor has now added that as a feature in a different tool.
Yeah.
Right. Like we're all dealing with this in different ways. And it's not just HR, right? I don't know if that resonates with either of you, but I'm quite sure that being able to nimbly deal with what we have and what's going to come next is, I think, a huge, huge opportunity, but also a challenge for all of us that are in this space.
Yeah, I've heard it referred to as the Gen AI glitter bomb, where everyone's like, "Oh, let's go crazy. Let's think about what we can do with Gen AI." And I also think about it when say NASA is going to send a rocket ship to Andromeda, right?
Yeah,
the technology is going to progress such that, like, if you send that rocket ship out there, and 10 years later, you're going to build one that's going to essentially pass it. So I think a lot of people are getting involved in technology right now and starting to build things that is going to be easily surpassed within the year. So, like, how much effort do you want to put into this when you could outsource it or build into other systems, try to build some sort of ecosystem here? But, like, I mean, to your point, like Yogi Berra said, predictions are really hard, especially about the future.
Right. Yeah. I mean, doesn't it seem like one of the questions that we're asking ourselves now is, how patient are we for the thing that we think we need?
Yeah.
Well, are there core things that we just absolutely need? Like, I mean, we can get involved in, like, specific things about, performance management or, well-being, et cetera. But there's probably core things to help our employees perform better and do better that are like hygiene factors that I think we largely ignore these days, in lieu of the more advanced, more fun stuff where people at analytics will get in there and say, like, we need this highly technical system such that we can impress senior leaders and they'll implement it. But no, like, we focus on very core sort of issues.
Yeah. I mean, philosophically, the way that I try to lead this type of function is it starts with value from stakeholders. And so if we understand what our patients and customers need, how do we back that up into what are the talent implications, and then what are the analytical insights that we could bring to the table, either in mass or in specific, that will make that happen. So we try to attach very, very closely to business change, business need. Like, so when we look at our project list, it's one of our screeners, right? There's actually a set of values that every year we revisit as a team, and we look to say, okay, what's the order of operations? So if something comes across our desk or we're in a meeting and you hear, well, I'll tell you at least the rough version of it. If you hear something about the health, safety, or wellness of our employees, you drop everything and do that right now.
Yeah,
so there's a hurricane coming. There's war somewhere in the world. There's in Texas, the wildfires, right? So when those wildfires came out, I was on the phone myself with with the head of benefits and someone who's going for alerts, trying to figure out where is the smoke going, and then we visualized it on a map against employees' homes so we could make sure we could get to the right people, and that would happen in real time. So like that's number one. We drop everything, we do that.
It's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like,
yeah, exactly. And we did that for everyone, right? Because we know that there are many times when we all hire really smart people. Mm-hmm. So I want to empower them with good tooling and good decision making. Kind of, they have decision rights on a bunch of things to say, if you hear that patients, we're executing on a strategy where patients in this market need something, that's going to be the next part of your list. So it kind of, we go through a series of questions like that. And the final one is, because I want people to hit all 8 at some point, is create delight. Just something that is unexpected, is fun, is just a great stat, or something at the end of, sometimes we'll do this at the end of survey administration. Mm-hmm. And that's like a little thank you or something. We'll either do a little nugget of a video of a senior leader saying something that they've never told anyone before, or a success story, or something to learn, or just something that's going to unexpected and nice, just to kind of sprinkle.
I love create delight.
Create delight.
That's
yeah.
What you're saying. Nice.
Oh, I thought it was create the light. I like both.
Oh, you can do both. I mean, I'm in. The New Jersey accent gets involved. I'm in. Either way.
I love it though. Yeah.
But by the way, I don't know if we can put Cole. We don't know where Cole's whereabouts were when the wildfires started in Texas. By the way, he had to hightail it to Moscow, Idaho.
He's a suspect. Yeah. Well, Jeremy, you mentioned the volatility of what's going on in the world, and is even technical debt a concern for your team? And then seeing around the corner. And you guys have like your North Star of like your rank order of like, if you see something about health safety, drop it now. How do you guys plan for like the next 3 months? How are you guys going to see around the corner? How do you know what to focus on? And does your North Star change? Does it stay the same? Like, what does that look like with all the volatility?
Yeah. So I think just unpacking that question, one is a question about cadence of revisiting. Mm-hmm. Right. So if you asked me a couple of years ago, if we were talking about this, I would have said, check your cadence yearly. And I think probably during the pandemic, that probably changed to every 6 months. Now, I was expecting to go back to yearly, and I think it's going faster. I think it's now quarterly, at least, or maybe 3 to 4 times a year. I think honestly, the kind of year end kind of washes into the next year anyway. So it's probably about 3 times a year, like from a cycle perspective. So one is cadence. Check at least them. The second part is like, how do you see around corners? And that's a strategy question, right? It's how well are you embedded in listening to the needs of what's going on in the business? Kind of new strategic needs, when they're very hot, don't come out in a memo, right? They come out in a side conversation where you're understanding that there's a key need there, because the client may or may not be articulating, oh, I have a people analytics project that I think you could do. They don't really associate in that way. But when we start hearing a pain point, that's a point where we can, if we think it's valuable, we can kind of scope something out and see if we want to convert that into something that's important. But we do this even when I'm thinking about checking in 3 times a year. Even then, we're using three horizon thinking anyway. What are the things that are now, what's next, and what's kind of what's in the future? Because some things will take a while to build out. And so I feel like everything about kind of working on your people analytics portfolio is a lesson in hedging your bets. It's like portfolio planning, truly, right? Of what part of my portfolio is for now, what part of my portfolio is what I'm going to do next, and then what's going to take a long time. Because some of the things that are going to take a long time, no one may ask for in the right time frame. And I didn't realize that we were doing something that lots of organizations were doing until recently, when I was speaking to a friend, another peer, and they had said, we were really disappointed in this project because we hadn't done all the data engineering that we needed in time, because we knew the question that they were talking about was going to be asked. And we also knew that it was going to take 6 months to do the data engineering to be able to answer it in the time frame required. And I'm like, oh wait, we do that too. Yeah. So, I mean, we're always trying to think and kind of make bets. And I try to be as transparent with my boss about it. So look, I'm going to take a small amount of time, because I'm betting that we're going to need to handle these two types of questions in 6 months, but it's going to take 7 months to be ready for it.
Yeah.
So just in case, I'd like to start now on we're just going to make a couple bets, and if we're wrong, it was cheap. Like as long as the cost of being wrong is relatively cheap, and even better if my team's learning at the same time, then I'm happy. That nothing is ever wasted. It just might not be in the time frame you wanted.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, Jeremy. I always think like a lot of these things are knowable, right? So you get a new CEO. Well, guess what? In a few months, they're going to be going through their storming phase with their new executive team because they just formed, right? Like these things are very predictable. So it's like, well, if you know that now, you can start collecting the data that's necessary to be able to try to predict the downstream consequences of that. And there's a variety of different examples like that. But I love that that's what your team is focusing on. Do you have any other big kind of like big things you're focusing or innovative things that you're excited about in the coming year?
Well, yeah, I mean, the things that I'm personally the most excited about is how can we adopt some of the AI work, not as a glitter bomb, although I love those videos of the guy that does the glitter.
Oh yeah, the package thief guy.
Package thief guy. So that the using AI in authentic ways to really transform both the people analytics function, but more importantly, the employee and manager experience is absolutely critical. So look, we work in a company where we're using AI for some of the things that are actually saving lives, right? So when we're in discovery, which are kind of these are fundamental research scientists. Some of the AI work is helping to model new proteins that recommend new formulations of the protein based on their properties. Like this is key stuff that's actually starting to show a difference in the organization. So for our team, one, we're some of the folks that actually understands both the HR side and the technical side of at least some of what they're doing. I mean, we're not biologists for the most part, but we can at least we understand the code sometimes when we're going in, and sometimes we actually help them. Like we actually have gigs in some of these groups,
saving lives. I love it.
Right. So we actually can provide almost the emotional guidance and support you need, because how many data scientists do you know that are just burned out, right? And so like bringing that up to light for HR, bringing that to light and just making sure that they feel connected, I think that's absolutely huge. Inside of people analytics, some of the agent work and some of the kind of essentially generative BI work that's going on right now, I'm very excited about some of this. So I had a personal threshold crossed, which is I was out at a doctor's office. My boss was somewhere else. She was having trouble logging in because she was, she's traveling and she couldn't get in, and she needed a little fact. And honestly, it was a Friday, kind of late, and I didn't want to ask one of my team because I was at a doctor's office to go do the work. I logged into Teams. I went into the little app and I asked the question because I knew it was pretty straightforward question. I got a correct answer because I knew some of the data, and I handed it to her and she gave it to an executive. Like that's one of those moments of, yeah, okay, maybe, the world of people analytics just took that one little step forward in my little world a little bit more. Like that's very encouraging that we can begin to rely on some of this data, just as some of the new pieces of tech are rolling out. So like, I don't know how many generative tools you keep on your phone. So I've been keeping Perplexity and Claude on mine just to kind of see what the better results are. But a friend of mine was telling me, like, he was doing research about a meeting that he had that afternoon while in bed with his eyes closed, not touching anything, and just asking GPT about, so can you summarize a background of this person I'm about to meet? Oh, thank you. Okay. Could you tell me about this company and what's their stock price been? He just did his research from bed and barely awake. That's how interesting is the world that we're living in now, and some of the crosses between what might be available. It's always the might, it's always the next thing, but generative AI coaching. Yeah.
My favorite coworker, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like who if you're building and you're not in GitHub Copilot, right? I mean, that's like, it's killer.
I mean, I think that's a really good application to like familiarize yourself with, sort of things you need to. Apparently, Gemini 2.0 launched by Google the other day, and it's going to revolutionize the research game for students, and that's a whole different sort of aspect here. Like you can essentially just ask it natural questions, and it can go do a full lit review for you.
Nice.
I think that being able to solve like business questions like, oh, give me the percentage of people that were termed in this leaders org and, on the fly and perhaps some reasons behind it is a great application too. Where I really worry, it's a philosophical question. I don't think there's a way around it, is say your boss gives you a performance rating or performance feedback. Or say performance plan. Say you're not performing well, and they do it all through Gen AI. It's like, so you don't care enough about me to write a genuine, your heartfelt thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Why should I bother reading something that you couldn't fucking write yourself?
Yeah.
Right, and that's kind of what it gets to. And I don't think there's a way around it because that's the way the world's going.
So if you extract the human in the middle, this gets crummy fast.
Yeah.
So like that kind of I think that's where the role of empathy as a leader and as a people analytics leader, right, is so important as well. Is how do we help train and kind of talk about the best use of some of the tools. So I'll argue it both ways. I mean, one of my team leaders and I were at a meeting a couple of weeks ago where they were discussing one of the many AI coaching applications that are out there. And this one claims to be able to dig into your data set as well, and then be able to kind of, raise natural coaching moments. So, hey, you're about to meet with Alice. Don't forget Alice. And you had kind of a tough conversation about X before, so maybe focus here. Well, that's very nice. Or, I mean, I can imagine it for all of us, right? The thought experiment of, by the way, the person you're about to meet, their turnover just spiked. They lost 3 people. Here's just a little fact. So kind of news you can use, which, by the way, I think blows up a lot of BI tools, right? And I'm very excited about that idea. Now let me just do the flip of that, right? So not work related. My wife and I wanted to go see a Broadway show. We live near New York, so we're not too far away. And we just wanted to go see a play, and we knew the play that we wanted to see. So we went on a Saturday, and I was looking at like StubHub and all the different online tools, and the tickets were kind of pricey and not so great. But like, we'll stand in the long line. There's something called Duffy Square. If you've ever been to New York and you want to see a show, you can get discount tickets. So we're in this line for like 2 hours, and the show was in 2.5 hours. And we're like, this is not going so well. Why don't we just walk to the theater? So I had exhausted all of my online options, which are supposed to be the most efficient, right, and kind of really help you to algorithmically match. Walk up to the box office, and someone who's clearly an expert and knew what she was doing. She said, "Oh yeah, how much you looking to spend?" I said, "About this." She goes, "I gotcha." Boop boop boop, and middle orchestra rows, 2 seats right there for less, hundreds of dollars less, honestly, than anything that we saw online or offline too. So on, kind of the thing that's supposed to be the best optimized wasn't. It was talking to somebody.
Yeah.
And so we do lose some granularity in some of that human interaction and it turns into a great story too. So I can actually see both of those sides. And I think somewhere in the middle, that's how we want to live.
I'll combat my own point as well by saying that if a manager is doing their job, you should already know your performance, right? It shouldn't come down to a performance review once a year. They should already be talking to you, and you shouldn't be any surprises whatsoever.
Exactly.
So once again, do we really need the AI? It should be all these sort of hygiene factors, all these basic best practices.
Yeah. In the best case, it's actually just an accelerator because you write slow.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm seeing kind of this push to decouple management from leadership. So you got the CEO of NVIDIA, I think his name's Jensen, and the CEO of Airbnb, his name's Brian, I think. And they're talking about how they never have one-on-ones with people, and that every CEO should not have 10 direct reports. They should have 50 direct reports. And I think the only way that works is if you have things like AI management and AI coaching, because you've got to have those. Like, people need direction, they need coaching, they need, the ability to air grievances, some of these things that come up. And it sounds like, so the pathway you're on Scott, about, they write a performance review, but they actually didn't write it and AI wrote it. Well, maybe the person actually conveying the performance review is going to be an AI eventually too, because of this decoupling of leadership and management.
Well, I'm just going to have my AI read their AI.
Yeah.
And they're going to feed it to me in the moments that I need it.
Yeah.
you want to move on?
Yeah. You want to do some confusion matrix, Jeremy?
Sure.
The confusion matrix. Real quick, we wanted to say thanks again to One Model, the AI and people analytics pioneer, for sponsoring the episode. And now back to the confusion matrix.
Let's do some confusion matrix. This is going to be let me make sure I can do this right. Oh my God. Hopefully it doesn't make me reboot this thing. Did y'all hear the story about Yes, Madam earlier this week? So the bit is they sent out an employee survey and essentially asked people like, hey, are you burnt out? And then later that week, they said, dear team, recently we conducted a survey to understand the feelings about stress at work. Many of you shared your concerns, which we deeply value and respect. As a company committed to fostering a healthy and supportive work environment, we have carefully considered the feedback to ensure no one remains stressed at work. We have made the difficult decision to part ways with employees who indicated they are experiencing significant stress. This decision is effective immediately, and impacted employees will receive further details separately. Thank you for your contributions. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord.
Wow.
Now, I did see this. Did anyone validate whether this was real, hoaxy, spammy? I mean, there's right now a scare in New Jersey about drones.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah,
right. And literally my mother-in-law just sent an article on someone claiming responsibility for the drones too, and that was also spam. It was all a hoax. Is it real? Did anyone actually validate whether this happened or not?
I haven't heard about this.
I'm seeing them all over TikTok.
Okay, all right. So clearly true. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
that's the hard part.
I have not heard about this, but let's play it on in principle. Let's say if any organization decided to do this, well, I mean, I feel like you can't even take the other side of it almost, because it's just so patently unethical to do something like this, unless there was some kind of, disclaimer. Your survey responses can and will be used against you in the court of law. But I can't even think of a case where this is ethical by any means.
Assuming it's true, which I saw several stories on Google the other day. So, I mean, maybe it's all from a common source and people are just click fodder or whatever. But talk about erosion of trust in HR. Never am I ever again answering a survey truthfully.
It does seem like, I mean, the net effect of this is damaging, because it did become viral. I just looked on Snopes as we were talking, and it is false. This is not so. Love Snopes. I love Snopes, but the net impact of it, as it gets around, it's all these paper cuts of things that people are exposed to, that can decrease candor and can decrease our ability to operate, which is not great.
Yeah. Well, this is the fear of AI taking over, say, medical fields. Hey, you got a patient with cancer. What's the best way to get rid of people with cancer? Get rid of those people.
God,
just cut them out.
There's been some. If you are interested in these types of topics, there is a podcast called Plenary Session. It's by a hematologist oncologist who's also a quant, and he is fantastic on these types of questions, because some of the arguments, particularly as they start going into the medical field, I thought were fascinating. Which was so many people have become specialists that truly horizontal thinking inside of some areas could use a lot of help, and AI has actually been helping to connect the dots in some ways as well. So for every kind of fear and story like that, there's a story of, I plugged in some symptoms and was able to suggest to my doctor some ideas, and it turns out one of them was actually what it was. Now, some of that's also, probabilistically, if you run that experiment 100,000 times, it's coming out a certain percentage of times correct too. So you don't really know what's true or not on some of those either's, but the assertion and the idea is really interesting.
I mean, this is what Hume said. David Hume said, you can never know the truth because it's always moving.
Yeah.
Jeremy, I'm a little offended that you don't understand the point of Directionally Correct, that you actually checked us with scenarios.
Yeah, what the fuck, man?
This is a fact-free zone. Is that the?
I see what you're saying too. It's a publicity stunt on New York Times.
Oh man, this is good stuff.
Well, I mean, it worked. It worked. We're talking about it.
Yeah.
Well, you want to move on to do some nerdery?
The nerdery.
Let's do some nerdery. Scott, do you want me to go to the classroom one?
You want to do that first? You want to do that last?
Let's do that. All right, I've got. I think Richard Rosenau sent this one over to me. I don't think this guy's actually a people analytics guy, but it's a guy named Ben Stansel who has a Substack called Ben, and he has become my new id because he writes stuff, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I so agree and disagree with this at the same time. But this article is, it's disband the analytics team ? And one of the things that it talks about in here is like, is analytics the concept? Is it a Ponzi scheme? And so essentially the thought is, these analytics teams were formed. I think this actually jibes pretty well with like the competing on talent analytics, right? We hear the big promises that we made as a field, and then have we delivered on those promises? And it's like he's saying, no, that's a Ponzi scheme. We actually haven't delivered. And so he gives you 3 choices of what you should do if you're in a Ponzi scheme. It says, continue the Ponzi scheme and just hope you don't get caught. Confess to the Ponzi scheme and reduce the scope of your people analytics team, or pivot into a more adversarial role of providing, just more detailed analysis on how to do this more effectively. And I thought this was so interesting. And he had done a similar post recently where he's basically saying most people go through their whole analytics career and only find 1 or 2 truly new insights that their companies weren't already aware of. And if that's the case, again, this is all going back to my id, but did you guys have a chance to read this? And what are your reactions to the disband the analytics team?
Well, I mean, there are certain parts of analytics that I certainly hope that we all automate and that won't be needed as a team anymore. And I know it's going to happen because it already has in the past, right? So we're not like the frequency of using spreadsheets anymore is much less than it was in the past. If you've been around long enough, you would have known that there was a job title of report designer. Go find me 5 report designers. So I think over time, these jobs really do dissolve and go away, which is awesome. That is great news for everybody. Like we all want that to happen. I mean, calling it a Ponzi scheme, of course, that's to provoke.
Sure, it was meant to be provocative.
So, but it kind of challenges us to think through what is the value that you're adding. Can you articulate that? Can you articulate the value? Are you tied to things that are actually important, or vanity projects? Types of work. That the point about finding 1 or 2 novel areas, that's interesting, because I wonder if we were to take an academic lens to that. If you find 1 or 2 things new to world, that's a career.
Correct.
People will win the Nobel for that. I mean, that's actually kind of a big deal. There are certain things that companies will learn about people analytics, about leadership, that you could have easily picked up a book about. So even when the New York Times article came out on Project Oxygen, this is at a different company, a very, very senior person came to me and said, we need to run this exact study. And of course, we need the study. And I said, we could do the study tomorrow. It's going to cost about $500,000. In the interim, would you be willing to buy this $20 book called The 7 Hidden Reasons Why People Leave Organizations? Because Lee Branham's data was, Lee had 7, Google had 8. And if you look at them, you could probably squeeze 2 into one of Lee's, right? And they did. They picked up the book and they started living the principles of those things as well. So I do kind of feel like there are influencing questions, and then there are new to world questions. You pick up if you as an individual contributor find 1 or 2 things new to world, that is awesome.
I used to have it like memorized, but there was like this meta-analysis, I think it came out like 3 or 4 years ago,
Yeah.
of all of the predictors of turnover, and it was like 140. And it's like, do you really think you're going to find something new outside of these 140?
Right.
Probably not.
Well, every organization thinks that they're a snowflake, right? Things work differently here. We're different. We're inside our bubble. And therefore, like, to like prove yourself, like you got to prove it within the organization. I think Google went on a big study to identify, maybe it's probably Project Oxygen, to identify leadership characteristics, because it came down to initiating structure and consideration overall, which we knew in the 1940s. But the reason why people analytics functions don't deliver are varied, because there's a maturity issue. Just having the data. Do you have access to the data? Do you have the infrastructure to handle the data?
Yeah.
Do you have people to run the things? Do you have good people to run the things? And then finally, can you get senior leadership to uptake it, to implement it, or just anyone in the leadership chain to implement it? So there's a lot that has to go right before you actually impact the business overall.
Sure.
Absolutely. Well,
mic drop.
Yeah, mic drop. I'm going to move on to the next nerdy article.
Yeah.
I think this kind of jives with the point we were making earlier about the volatility of what's going on in the world and being able to predict the future. And it's really hard to do. But what this guy named Enrico, he made a post based on The Economist, the magazine, of net inflows and outflows of graduates of universities and what countries they're going to, and how presumably how this is going to have impacts on their country of origins economics, but also the country that they land in economics. And so I'll just kind of hit the high points of, the top inflow countries were Canada, Australia, the US, Germany, Spain, Switzerland, New Zealand. And then the top outflow countries were China, India, Iran, Brazil, Russia, Vietnam. And they talked about how this brain drain has huge negative impacts on what's going on in the world. But I imagine you probably don't see if you look at it from a time horizon standpoint, you probably don't see a huge negative impact in any particular year. But over a 5 or a 10-year period, this can have a huge negative impact on those economies. So I thought this was really interesting, considering all the things that are going on in the world right now, and just how kind of chaotic things are.
Yeah. I mean, there are. I think you're right that over time, it takes decades sometimes for it to realize. But I do wonder if things are moving so quickly right now, how quickly some of the effects are felt, and are they then mitigated by something else? So mitigating, like, is it being a fast follower the better strategy if you are in a low and a more brain drained country, because the speed to get back up to wherever someone else was is so fast anymore. So I do wonder what the impact of the flattening of knowledge starts to have on those types of the problem sets as well. I mean, if you're talking about something physical, because some of us actually do make physical things, and you need technical know-how to get your hands into something and not get killed in the process. That's where you'll see it the fastest, because you won't be able to. Nurses in hospitals. It's a really good example of where that drain can happen quickly.
Absolutely. One of the things that's interesting is just looking at the U.S. itself has so much inflow, but it has, I think, actually the most outflow of any country. It's offset by the inflow numbers.
Yeah, is it what off the denominator? Was it a percentage, or was it
Exactly.
I'd love to throw the corruption index at this. Like all these countries at the bottom, where China, India, Iran, Brazil, they all have high levels of corruption. I wonder if the hypothesis that workers are seeing, like, I can't get anything done here, so I need to come to essentially a Western country, where things are more egalitarian, where I can actually get ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, you see micro effects of this as well. Both Cole and I went to school in Louisiana. Huge brain drain in Louisiana. There's no jobs there. There's no high paying jobs. Whether it has to do with corruption or not, I don't know. But there's just no opportunities there. So you got to go somewhere else, especially if you have any sort of like talent.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Well,
but they did build building the world's largest AI plant there. Meta is.
Have we fact checked that because I heard you text. So Jeremy, you're probably not aware of this. Scott sends me a text message and it says Meta is building a $10 billion AI facility in rural North Louisiana, like 20 minutes from where I grew up. And I was like, there's no way. And because like, I guess it probably has something to do with power generation, because my understanding is to train these models, they just require an insane, like unfathomable amount of power. And I imagine that that's probably more accessible actually in rural areas than already densely populated areas. But this is wild. I don't know if you wanted to bring that up, Scott.
Well, I think we just did.
Okay.
And a lot of these companies are also building their own like nuclear power plants to go along with these, just because like the existing power grid isn't reliable enough. But Jeremy, you on Snopes? You gonna fact check this?
I tried that first. It didn't know anything, but at least the AP Wire says it's true.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, fantastic.
Well, that's Google said that the yes, madam was true too the other day too. So we'll find out if there's an uptick in professional jobs in Louisiana soon.
Yeah,
but I mean, like that is massive for the area to bring in that sort of talent and that sort of industry.
Yeah. Well, let's do. You want to do the classroom one, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the role of classroom seating and friendship formation. It's a 2024 study out of the Connections Journal. I'm trying to get published in Connections, so look out for me, Connections. You may want to tap me.
Yeah.
What's up? Why not lay the ground?
Do they have a call for papers or something?
No. I just got something I think they may enjoy.
Unsolicited advice.
Unsolicited advice, yeah. So who we're friends with has an impact on how we think, feel, and behave. And in schools, they can also impact grades and overall experience. This study analyzed how classroom arrangements, either self-chosen or teacher-chosen, impact friendship formation.
Yeah.
So what they did is they went to 24 American high schools and mapped the actual seating configurations in these classrooms. And they understood how people chose where they sat together, or if the actual teachers were to select those assignments. And they analyzed their friendship networks at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year. And what they found is when students chose their own seats, friendship formation was more influenced by their proximity. It's not really shocking. We know that people form friendships based on sitting together, or, you know, you go to the park and like you make friends with like the mother group or whatever. But student chosen seating led to more diverse friend groups. So as opposed to teacher arranged seating, when you choose your own friend group, you choose more diverse friend groups. And having a mutual third friend aids in friendship formation and persistence. That's pretty common finding as well, but pretty interesting study given like we're coming to a RTO area where everyone's going to be coming back to the office, and you know where you sit matters, and it matters to the flow of information and your overall outcomes.
So I'm so glad that you surfaced this, because as soon as I opened up the email and read that was going to be one of the articles, Science Friday. I've been listening to Science Friday for since I was a kid. Love that show always, and they had just come out with a podcast on a new study where the Yale, I have it up here, the Yale Human Nature Lab took a look at the gut microbiome of specific communities.
What?
And it turns out that if you hang out with the same circle of people enough, there's some evidence you actually start sharing the gut microbiome, which also has, there are some, at least there are pieces of work being done right now on how much that influences behavior, anxiety, and like some really kind of core. So I guess choose where you sit wisely, right? And I think it might actually handle a couple of things too. But I do wonder if we're just kind of scratching the surface on really understanding what social circles really do to us, not just for an emotional and intellectual standpoint, but also physically. I mean, look at that. And how do we think about that? I mean, the people I hang out with might impact my mood, and not just because of how they might talk to me.
We've known for a long time that females, if they hang out together long enough, their menstrual cycles will sync up with each other. I was at a conference with Rob Cross some time ago, and someone presented this research. Essentially showed brain patterns of people that hang out together start coalescing as well. So as much as we like to think that we're all independent, like we're independent thinkers, like I can go to my Snopes, whatever. Like we're really impacted by those people around us, and like to your point, in ways we don't know. And like I don't know if that's environmental, why your gut biome would react the same way, or
Yeah.
I hate to be like Joe Rogan, but there's a lot going on we don't know, man.
Well, this just shows how broken my brain is. Is my first thought when you were mentioning, Jeremy, about this is some company is going to find a way to monetize this as a test of your friendship. They're going to be like, here, let us analyze your poop to see how good a friend you are or something. I'm like, gosh, is this the world we really live in?
That's a different direction.
Yeah.
That's a different direction. Yeah, I mean, I think this has implications for the way you behave and like your overall outcomes just based on the people you choose to sit with in, say, like your high school setting.
Mm-hmm.
It influences your thought process and how you move throughout life.
Well, this is good stuff. Well, Jeremy, I feel like you've been a fantastic guest today, and I've been wanting to talk to you for quite some time.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to spend the time together.
Yeah, you've been such a good sport. Before I give you the final word, Jeremy, Scott, any parting words for Jeremy?
Jeremy, where are we going on Broadway?
What, do you like musicals or do you like plays?
Hey, I'm open. Feather in the wind.
It's going to see an uptick now, but just go see Wicked if you haven't seen it.
Okay.
You have to know how it ends, right? If you see the movie in theaters, you only see the first half, so now you can see the rest.
Oh,
it's my understanding like the actual Wizard of Oz is just like a small part of the actual Wicked arc.
Yep. It's the Wizard of Oz. I mean, obviously it's beloved by hundreds of millions of people, but it has special meaning for me because my grandfather was actually in vaudeville, and the guy who plays the Scarecrow, Ray Bolger, was his dance partner in vaudeville. I've always loved that kind of those pieces together. So that's always been a soft spot for me. Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Soft spot for the soft shoe, man.
Yep. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
Arguably like the best movie of all time, So
yeah.
Excellent. But well, Jeremy, this has been so fun. Thanks for joining us today. You've been listening to Directionally Correct, a People Analytics podcast with Cole and Scott, and today's guest, Jeremy Shapiro. Thanks, Jeremy.
Take care, everybody.
I want to say a big thank you to our new patron of the podcast, Chris Mannion. Thanks for supporting the podcast, Chris. Directionally Correct is dedicated to you, our listeners, to help educate and entertain you on how to effectively do people analytics. By supporting this podcast, you are helping us continue to provide valuable insights and knowledge to our listeners. Please consider becoming a patron of the podcast. You can find the link to sign up in the show notes or at patron.podbean.com/directionallycorrect. Thanks for your support.